Hey, seventh graders, Mr. Allard with another one of your flip lessons. This is going to be number 90 in our interactive notebook, Jackson's Government. We kind of talked about what was kind of big events in his presidency. Now we're going to talk about kind of what he was doing in his government. We're going to talk about that in two different ways. All right, so fill in the blank notes. As always, answer the questions on your ed puzzle. Try to get a 5 out of 5. All right, here we go. All right, so the first aspect of Jackson's government is what is going to be called the spoil system. All right, and Jackson's idea behind this was his campaign. There was a lot of kind of there was a lot of passionate people working in it. He was the first kind of president that was detached, or second president that was detached from kind of the American Revolution style people. But he was our first president that was kind of a self-made person. Started out poor, became rich, and kind of took people along the way with him. And this led to him using the spoil system. So what Jackson did is he basically gave jobs within his government to people who support his campaign. Now, every president is job is when they take office is to fill government positions. Everything from the presidential cabinet all the way down to lower level department workers and things like that. Um, Jackson took this approach, which was again followed by a lot of presidents at this time period, of giving those jobs to people who supported him, and this became known as the spoil system. It also, you may have heard it referred to as a patronage system. You're giving a patron as somebody who is with you, somebody who goes to see you, etc. So Jackson was kind of using this to not to motivate people to kind of support him. If you support me, I have this promise at the end of the day to give you a government job. Could be something like Postmaster General of Schuyler County in Pennsylvania, but it's a way to get people in Pennsylvania to get out voters for him to help him win that electoral college for presidency. All right, so why was this seen a bad thing? You can see in this political cartoon, Andrew Jackson is portrayed as a devil, and so there were people who thought this was a negative thing. Well, first of all, critics basically didn't think that this was a good way to give people jobs. You know, just because let's use myself for example. So let's say I gave money to a political campaign knowing that I was going to get a government job, and I was named by the president to the Department of Energy based on the amount of money I gave. I have no qualifications for that job. I am not a scientist. I am not somebody who's worked in the energy field. So I would be unqualified for that position. However, the reason I was getting it is because of the amount of money that I has given to the campaign. So the critics' main idea was this is going to draw the wrong type of people into politics, and this you might have somebody who's never done this job before given a pretty important job in the government. Jackson, kind of how Jackson was. Remember we talked about the Trail of Tears. The Supreme Court kind of offered a position, and he basically said, you know what, you guys enforce it. He kind of used this old phrase, to the victors go the spoils, basically saying, I won. I was chosen by the people. I get to do what I want to do. If you don't like it, then do something about it because people are supporting me, which they're saying what I do is okay. As you can see from the political cartoon, however, people thought this was kind of a bad way of doing things. Ooh, let me get out of this. So next up is Andrew Jackson's kitchen cabinet. All right, and kitchen cabinet and spoil system kind of go like this. They kind of work with each other because the kitchen cabinet is an example of spoil system. All right, and Jackson used the idea of his spoil system to pick his kitchen cabinet. All right, and we use this term realizing that it's not an actual kitchen cabinet, but this is what Jackson used really instead of his actual presidential cabinet. All right. So, the presidential cabinet at this time, Secretary of War, Secretary of the Navy, Secretary of State, Attorney General, Postmaster General, etc. Those are the people that Andrew Jackson named, nominated, Congress passes. Those are the people who are supposed to help him with these jobs. Instead, what Jackson did was pretty much round up a group of his most loyal supporters, the people who have been there with him the longest, the people he really trusted, and these were the people that he really used to make choices on governmental matters. And they were nicknamed the kitchen cabinet because they were kind of sneaky. So it said like, oh, they're meeting in the kitchen because nobody's there and stuff like that. So that's kind of where that term came from. But as an example of the spoils system, Jackson's going to pretty much ignore his own presidential cabinet, and he's going to go through a lot of different secretaries during his presidency. I think he has 4 or 5 different secretaries of state, which is not very normal, even for a president that serves 2 terms. Usually your secretaries pretty much stay on for most of the long haul. Ooh, ooh, let me get back. Nope, that's not what I want. I need to move out of the picture. So, issue with this was pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It has to do with checks and balances. So the reason why the presidential cabinet was kind of a useful thing is, let's say again, I gave a bunch of money to the president, and he said, because you gave me so much money, I'm going to name you the Secretary of Navy. Well, that might be very well and good, but I would still have to be approved by the Congress. I am very doubtful that the Congress would approve somebody who never served in the military, let alone never serving in the Navy, as the Secretary of the Navy. So I would not get through. All right, and that was a check to stop the president from, picking people who are not qualified to do the job. Well, what happens if the president is secretly meeting with people that Congress doesn't even know about, that Congress doesn't even know these meetings are happening? Well, that's where it's going to become problematic. We're not going to have that checks and balances. So you're going to have people who may be making decisions on, foreign policy or Native American policy or issue with the banks and things like that aren't really qualified for the position, might be looking out for their own interests instead of the interests of the country. And that was the big issue behind the kitchen cabinet. All right, 7th graders. So there's our flipped lesson for tonight, or for today. If you have any questions, as always, hit me up on Schoology. If it's something just for me, you can send me a message. If it's something that your classmates can help out with you can drop a message on the updates, and they should be able to get back to you. Till then, see you next time. Elliot out.